I'm in line at Starbucks, and I am going to pick up a quart of Silver Flames in about 2 hours. I'm finishing up my workday first, but I am 5 minutes into the audiobook, and I literally have been holding back tears just 5 minutes out of just pure excitement for this book. Do I really have to wait like another 2 hours to go get it? Honestly, it's really rude. But here we are. 21 minutes in. 21! Okay, I have to make this fast, but I don't know if you can see where I'm at. You can't. I'm at Barnes & Noble. I wanted to do this section before I go in because I always chicken out, like, whenever I go inside and don't want a video. But I'm here to pick up the book, and I'm so excited! Ah! I don't even care if anyone's looking right now because I'm just so freaking excited. Look at this beauty. Okay, honestly, it looks way better in person, I think. I did not like the cover. But it's so, like, dark, and then, like, the gray is matte, but the mask is shiny. I don't know. I think it looks really pretty. I'm so happy. I feel so weird. I feel like a fangirl. I feel like I did, like, in high school when Sarah J. Maas books were coming out or Cassandra Clare books were coming out, and I would come, like, the day that they were released. Like, it's been a while since I've been this excited for a book release. Like, I'm just so happy. I'm on chapter 30. I've read this much. It's been less than 24 hours since I've had this book. And I'm obsessed with it, obviously. But, couple things. I love this, like, girl gang that we're getting. Like, I know that's common for Sarah J. Maas, but, like, Nesta hasn't really had any friends of her own besides, like, her sisters, and, like, all of those people really know her past and, like, know who she is, but, like, it's really nice that she's finally getting friends who she kind of gets to reinvent herself with. Like, she gets to actually have friends who kind of know what she's going through, but, like, going through their own traumas as well. And they're kind of, like, leading each other through it. And I am so here for this because I feel like with Rhysand and Feyre, like, yeah, Feyre was also led back by her friends, but she was mainly led back by Rhysand. And, like, Cassium is kind of doing that for Nesta. But, like, I don't know. I feel like the more progress she's making is coming from, like, her new female friends, which I am so here for. And secondly, I am dying on this hill that Cassium and Nesta are mates. Like, I don't know if they are mates. I shouldn't say that. But there are so many, like, things that point to the fact that they are mates. Like, the fact that, like, she'll literally be unconscious and respond to, like, his voice or his presence. And then same thing with, like, him. Like, he can be completely oblivious to everything else that's happening, but the second, like, she makes her presence known, like, he just comes straight back to her. I feel like that's mate shit, right? Like, that has to be mate shit. I don't know. I'm almost halfway done, and I love it. Now, I have this other theory that Cassian's gonna be really close to death, and Nesta's gonna call in her favor to make him live. Maybe. I'm reading And I'm just so happy. I'm so happy that Nesta has female friends now. Like, I love Gwyn and Emery so much. I look terrible right now, but I'm on page 542. And I think he was just gonna tell them that they were mates. Ah. Why? Why does it always get cut off? Just tell them. I finished ACOSF and I can't say that. I finished A Court of Silver Flames. Finally, okay? I only took 3 days to finish, but this is actually like the time that I'm filming. It has been a week since I finished. I've had plenty of time to sit with it. I have not started another book after it because I just feel empty. If you know what I mean. If you've read it, you probably know what I mean. Before we get into it, I do want to give you guys a quick rating. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars. This is not to say that I did not enjoy it. Like, normally I rate Sarah J. Maas very high. This is the lowest rated Sarah J. Maas book I have ever given. And it's not to say that I did not like it because I very much enjoyed reading it. I read it in 3 days. That's really quick for me. And I just like flew through it. I enjoyed it, but it did not meet my expectations the way other Sarah J. Maas books had. I guess like at least 3 theories, like, or at least close to guess them. So that's already something for me. I like to be surprised. I like to kind of be kept on my toes. So this one was kind of predictable for me. And the only reason that I rated it so low was because I just feel like the plot was lacking and I don't know, I wasn't left with the same feeling afterwards of like wanting to go back and reread it immediately. And I feel like all Sarah J. Maas books normally leave me with that, like I find it so hard to get out of this story, but I could have started another book directly after this and just like forgotten about it. And that's just kind of a red flag there for me of not loving a book. Okay, so I put over on our Instagram that I would be taking a shot for every single theory that I got wrong. I had 6 theories, and then I, like, confirmed or denied, like, other people's theories. So I'm just gonna go based off of the ones that I personally had. I had 6 theories, and yeah, I'm gonna have to take a few shots because they were pretty out there, and I knew that this would happen, but I'm gonna stick to my word. I'm a little afraid. I'm gonna have tons to talk about. If you guys have any questions, please put down in the comments what you would like me to hit on if I don't hit on it here. I will like message you guys or like put something on our Instagram story because I do really have so much to talk about when it comes to this book. But yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I have my shot here. I'm going to start and try to split them up. I have at least 3 shots to take. I might have more once I think more about like my notes and everything. But I have at least 3 that I know that I got wrong, and so I'm going to split them up a little bit. So, cheers. Whew. So I had multiple theories. Like, I went into this book with so many crackpot theories, it was insane. I only brought up 3 in our collab with Booked and Boozy on our YouTube channel, and then I brought 3 up over on their podcast that we are going to chat about today. But I'll link both of those down below if you guys want to go check them out if you haven't already. But we were just so freaking excited about this book that like I spent probably all last month rereading all of them and just coming up with theory after theory of what could possibly happen in this one, because this was my most anticipated read of 2021. So that first theory that I took a shot for was actually about what was in the box. We contemplated it both on our YouTube video and over on Booked and Boozy podcast what was in the box. Like, that's what everyone was so curious about, and everyone was coming up with different things. So I had come up with the fact that it would be either something of Nesta's parents, like her mother's wedding ring, or one of her father's like wood carving, something that like Cassium had gone and found for her. Or I thought it would be a piece of the Nesta, which is what her dad rode into war on, like a piece of the ship. So those were my two theories. Obviously I had to take a shot. I was wrong. It was actually really funny because I think it was Jada and Rayanne that brought up like, oh, it's probably a book. And I was like, it says it's a little box. It's not gonna fit a book. And then it was a tiny book, so. The rest of the basically thoughts that I'm gonna do is just going to be rapid fire because I have so many of them, and if I just like spent time on each one, it would just be like a 45 minute long video, which we don't really have time for. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the way that Nesta's trauma is dealt with overall. This is something that actually kind of saved the book for me. I knew that this was going to be mainly focused on Nesta and her overcoming her trauma, but I didn't know how in-depth it was going to go and how many coping mechanisms we were going to see. I really enjoyed seeing her actually put those coping mechanisms to use, ones that we can learn from and use in our daily lives. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The thing that made me, like, very beginning, thing that made me most uncomfortable was the intervention that they had with Nesta. I have never felt so, like, I don't know if it would be, like, cringe, but I felt genuinely so uncomfortable in that moment. I just think that the way that she is treated is so, like, belittling, even though, like, what she did was terrible. Like, I will go on a limb right there and say that, like, if that was my sister, I would flip the fuck out. But the way that they treat her was kind of dehumanizing, and it made me really not like Feyre and Rhysand in that moment. Mainly Rhysand. Rhysand treats freaking Nesta like garbage in this book, and it made me so angry because even halfway through the book, he rescues Nesta pretty much from this terrible dream, and he sees what she sees inside the cauldron, and it makes him feel genuinely uncomfortable. He's like, I knew that Nesta's trauma was bad, but I did not realize how bad. And then he still continues to treat her like garbage after that. Like, Rhysand, have some sympathy. Like, he was so understanding when it came to Feyre, and he did so much for her. And the fact that he just, like, lets his own anger towards Nesta overpower everything that she has gone through makes me mad. It made me really not like Rhysand in this book, and that's sad because Rhysand is one of my favorite characters. But I don't know, I just had so many issues with him in this book, and I did not like the way that he was portrayed. And maybe it was because we were seeing him through Nesta's point of view that I was like, okay, maybe that's why, like, I don't know, maybe that's why I don't like him as much, because we're seeing him through a different lens. But through that lens, I was like, Rhysand, what the fuck are you doing? Like, don't do this, please. The next thing that kind of goes along with the last thing that I really did not like was how in ACOMAF and ACOWAR, they spent so much time focusing on basically how Lucien and Tamlin had turned a blind eye to Feyre when she was going through her worst trauma. And, like, she was going through all of those issues. She was puking her guts up, losing a bunch of weight, like, going through those serious problems. And one of the big issues that we had with Tamlin and Lucien was the fact that they ignored it. And then freaking all of them ignore Nesta going through this, and they're putting it under the guise of, like, I'm giving her space, and, like, I would like to see her, like, kind of write it herself. And I get that they are different people. Like, Nesta and Feyre are different people, but, like, they didn't even try. They put it under the guise of giving her space, and then they did the same exact thing that Lucien and Tamlin did, and turned a blind eye to the fact that she was hurting and she needed help. And I feel like that made me really upset with these characters as well. And I feel like a lot of people are on the same page as me of, like, feeling like the characters that they loved so much in this book took a big step back. And I don't know if it was just because we were in Nesta's point of view, but, like, I don't know. I just really had some issues with the way that these characters were portrayed and the way that they handled Nesta's trauma. I feel like they could have done so much to help her. And not only that, they put all of this pressure of dealing with Nesta onto Cassium when they knew how, like, rocky their relationship was. And I get that they already pretty much knew that they were mates. Like, it had been alluded to multiple times. Cassium was like, yeah, she's my mate. But that is so much to put onto one person who's not even her family. Like, I don't know. I felt really bad for Cassium in this book because going into it, he was not excited. He was terrified. Like, his heart had already been shattered by her, and they were like, okay, well, we don't want to deal with her. No one else can deal with her, so I guess we're just going to put everything on you. And I had some issues with that because that's so much to put on somebody. Like, why not try to incorporate other people into it instead of just Cassium? Like, that, God, I felt so bad for him in the beginning of the book because I was like, he is just going to have his heart broken over and over and over again until basically, like, she gets her shit together. And I think that's so sad to put that onto somebody. Like, basically, like, here, Cassium, fix her. Like, okay, I also want to talk about the vast difference of the way that Elaine is treated versus the way that Nesta is treated. They're both sisters. They go through similar trauma, yet Elaine is this, like, sweet, kind, loving girl, but when she secludes herself, starts losing weight, like, pushes everyone away, everyone tries to, like, wait on her hand and foot. Everyone treats her with such kindness and, like, softness, and just, like, this, I don't know, they treat her like she is broken that needs to be fixed. Whereas when Nesta secludes herself and starts losing weight and starts drinking and like, everyone just basically starts avoiding her like she's the plague. And I just take such issue with that. Like, there is such a difference in the way that they are treated, and I know that they are two different people who respond to two different things, but I wonder if she would have been shown, like, a little bit of love and kindness before that situation, like, how different things would have been. I missed More in this book. Like, I missed More so much, and I would have killed to see more of her because she's just such a light presence and she's one of my favorite characters. So the fact that she was only maybe in like 3 or 4 chapters in this book was so upsetting. I missed her a lot. Also, back to More, I have very high hopes for a friendship between Nesta and More in the next book. Like, it already slightly alludes to the fact that they could be developing like some type of friendship, but I really hope that we actually get to, like, see them become friends in the next couple books, because already, like, what we've seen, I love. Like, they are more similar than I think we give them credit for, even though they, like, have differences in the way that they dress, the way that they talk. I feel like their traumas and the way that they deal with it and their kind of mutual, like, respect for each other could blossom into a really great friendship, and I am so here for it. One of the things that I actually really loved, I know I started hot and heavy with a bunch of things that I hated, but one of the things that I really loved was the way that, like, Nesta, when she first goes to Windhaven, and, like, the first thing that Devlin says to her is, like, what is she doing here? And she responds, witchcraft. That's my favorite thing. The idea that Nesta is portrayed as a witch, I freaking love. And if you go watch our, like, YouTube video with Booked and Boozy, we ended it with talking about this idea that Nesta, Feyre, and Elaine portray the Weird Sisters. And ever since we brought that up, it was something that I didn't even think about. And then now that we have talked about it and I kind of look more at the signs that that is true, I cannot get that out of my mind. So this moment when she's, like, there and she's like, okay, I'm here to perform witchcraft, I was like, she's a weird sister. And I have not stopped thinking about it since then, and I am planning to post a crackpot theories whenever the next book comes out. Me and Rayanne talked about it, and we are going to post a crackpot theories for the next book, so we're going to talk about it there. But we have so many more theories about them portraying the Weird Sisters after this book that, like, I cannot handle. Like, I would love to just message Sarah J. Maas and be like, is that what, like, this is based off of? Because she bases so many fairy tales are used in this novel, or, like, this series as a whole, that, like, it would be totally acceptable that, like, those 3 were kind of based off of the Weird Sisters. I don't know. I'm here for it. Okay, one of the theories that I did not have to take a shot for, because I got it correct, was we had talked about whether or not we were going to meet the third sibling to the Bone Carver and the Weaver, basically the third death god. We had talked about whether or not we were going to meet them, and we did! So it was Kosche. We brought up whether or not it would be him, or whether or not it would be another, maybe like one of the creatures in the prison, but I think all of us were kind of like set on the fact that it was the captor for Bassa, and we all knew that that was probably going to be him. So we got that one correct, which was pretty exciting. I also haven't talked much about Elaine in this book, because I'm going to save that mainly for my crackpot theories, but like, I had this weird feeling that like, what if Elaine is mainly pushing Lucian away not because of their past, but because she sees something different in their futures? Like, she's a seer. How simple could it have been that, like, she's pushing him away because she's like, actually, like, you're gonna die. Or, like, you're supposed to end up with this person, even though we're mates. Like, I saw this person in your future, and that's why I haven't made my move. I don't know. Just a thought. Okay, I feel like we also, at some point, need to talk about the smut in this book. And I've been avoiding it because, honestly, like, when it comes to smut in books, like, this is probably not my favorite. It ain't my cup of tea. Overall, like, the smut scenes, like, I had a love-hate relationship with them, because about half of them I was into, and then the other half I was like, oh, I'm cringing, and I don't know why. Also, back to Elaine. Elaine's comment to Nesta hit me way harder than it should have. I don't know if anyone, like, I am someone who loves Elaine, but I feel like even people who hate Elaine could have heard that comment and just been like taken aback for a second. But it was that part where she's like coming in and trying to like basically tell Nesta that she is going to search for those objects because Nesta wouldn't. And Nesta's like, no, like, you're not gonna do that. And she was like, yes, I am. And they had that weird like fight in between. Let's see if I can find it. It's on page 233, and Elaine says, I went into the cauldron too, you know, and it captured me. And yet somehow all you think about is what my trauma did to you. I don't know if anyone else like had to stop in that moment, but I genuinely put down the book and contemplated what that quote meant, because it hit me hard. It hit me so hard in the way that like I also agree, because Elaine in this book deals with so much erasure, and that's why I'm really excited to see what the next book has in store for her. I am someone who loves Elaine. I know that I am, like, probably one of the only, especially when it comes to Brooke, Jada, and Rayanne. Like, none of them give a shit about Elaine. But, like, I have loved her since the beginning, and there is so much erasure of her in this book. First of all, no one acknowledges her part in helping kill the King of Hybern. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, Nesta, like, she killed the King of Hybern. Elaine was the first one to stab him and save Cassium and Nesta, and no one acknowledges it after it was done. And I don't know if they're ignoring it because they think it might trigger her in a way, but like, that quote hit me hard because it's so true. Like, everyone treats Elaine now like, basically like, okay, she's dealt with her trauma, she's in the past tense, like, we don't have to worry about her. But what happened to Elaine is so much like having to deal with like what they had to go through in order to save her. And I know Feyre does that with Nesta and Elaine as well. Okay, so I'm taking another shot because I had this theory that we would see something else of Cassian's mother in this book. The fact that we do not know where she is buried, we do not know really like when she died. We just have like this weird feeling of like, okay, so he went back and found out that she had died and like couldn't find where she was buried and they wouldn't tell him, and then he lost his shit. So part of me thought that maybe either she was still alive or that Nesta would use her powers to find like where his mother was buried or where her body was. We did not see that happen, so cheers. Okay, another theory that I was correct about was the Throne of Glass one that I brought up, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I had this theory that a Throne of Glass character made an appearance because in Kingdom of Ash, there is a character who basically travels through worlds and sees Feyre and Rhysand. and I knew that it was them, and we had all talked about it before, and I was like, yes, that is going to happen. In this book, we are actually going to see it happen. So the red star that was the omen was actually the character in Throne of Glass, and I can't really say more than that because I'm afraid to spoil that series or spoil, like, I guess this series, but Sarah J. Maas did say that, like, she had a whole entire scene dedicated to it that she took out in her most recent live. But yeah, she had a scene for it, but it ended up not really fitting well into the book, so it was taken out and just kind of alluded to. But I had the very distinct feeling that, like, it is something that's going to be explored more, and I hope that it is, because, like, world walking and, like, that idea of, like, being able to travel through worlds is so prevalent inside of Throne of Glass, and I feel like it's already starting to allude to it in the Crescent City series, so I'm hoping that we get to kind of see more of it in the next 3 ACOTAR books as well. Especially with, like, Amren being from a different world and so many characters being from different worlds. Like, I would love to see if there's a tie between, like, characters in Amren's world also appearing in other series, or, like, other worlds that were very prevalent in those series making an appearance here. Something to think about. Can I just say that I loved the female friendships in this book? Like, Nesta, Emery, and Gwyn are my girls, but also just, like, the Valkyrie techniques in general of, like, getting these women together who have all gone through such traumatic experiences, and then them coming together to create, like, their own fighting legion, and it being, like, maybe not even specifically for them to take it to war later, but just them fighting together, even if it's just them fighting to overcome their own trauma. Like, they have an outlet now to basically take out their pain and their sadness and, like, not feel so helpless anymore. Like, I thought that was really beautiful, and the whole entire Valkyrie techniques of them, like, meditating, and also, like, just, like, it being a very uplifting experience. I really loved to see that. I also really loved the sleepover scene with Nesta, Emery, and Gwyn. Like, that scene is my favorite scene in that whole entire book. I thought it was so funny and so cute, and I remember, like, being in high school and having sleepovers often, and how healing those moments can feel, of just, like, creating those bonds. Like, even doing something so simple as, like, making friendship bracelets can be so long lasting, and that feeling of just, like, ultimate comfort and looking towards the next, like, big thing and feeling like you have someone by your side constantly. I thought that was really special, and I don't know if anyone else just was, like, really emotional in that scene, but, like, there was a big difference. And then even, like, when Cassium, it's in his point of view, and he comes back and he notices that big difference, and there is a quote that, like, got to me, and if it's not expanded on in the next 3 books, I will genuinely be very upset, because it was this quote where, like, Gwyn is about to cut the ribbon, and he notices that there's this change inside of all 3 of them, and, like, it's this world-changing moment where he was like, I know that there is more than just me witnessing this, and I was also witnessing it. It's on page 621, and Gwyn says, or Gwyn whispered, I am the rock against which the surf crashes. Nesta straightened at the words as if it were a prayer and a summons. Gwyn lifted the blade. Nothing can break me. And then, like, Emery says, nothing can break us. And then in Cassian's mind, it says, the world seemed to pause at the words, as if it had been following one path and now branched off in another direction. In 100, in 1,000 years, this moment would still be etched in his mind. And I felt like that was, like, okay, I'm already tearing up, because that moment was really special. Like, did I drop my shot glass? That moment was just, like, really special to me, and I don't even know why, but just, like, the idea of Gwyn being, like, the most quiet, the most subdued of all 3 of them, the most fearful, like, making that statement of just, like, such pure power, it was so, like, emotional to me. I don't even know how to articulate it, because it was a moment that, like, I honestly, there are moments in books that, like, I know that I will remember for the rest of my life. Like, there are so many of those in Throne of Glass. I think that this is a moment in a book that I will remember for a very, very, very long time. And I just, like, remember reading it for the first time and genuinely, like, crying my eyes out because I thought it was such a special moment, and I thought that that personally could have made the book for me. I'm gonna take my next shot, and I'm kind of scared. I don't know if I should have done tequila. I feel like this was a bad idea. Okay, so I had this theory. And it was a good theory. It was a really good theory. And I'm taking a shot for it, even though I don't think I have to. But I had this theory that basically Cassium was going to die or come close to death. And Nesta was going to basically give up her power to save him. And it was different. Like, Nesta, I thought maybe her power was both life and death, in that she would be able to channel it in different ways. So instead of it just being pure death, it also had a life aspect, and that's how she would basically channel it to save him, and that she would lose her power because of it. Now, I am taking a shot because it wasn't Cassium who went through that. It was Feyre, but the exact thing that I thought would happen did happen. She channeled her power, and she basically made a bargain with the cauldron to save her sister, and she gave up her power, which is basically what this theory was. So I'm going to take a shot because it was different people and slightly different circumstances, but overall the sentiment was true. I'm so scared. Cheers. Okay, but I am going to take partial credit for that, because for the most part, it did happen. Like, the actual, like, I'm getting drunk. The actual, like, thing happened. This is where I start to lose all of my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But it happened, okay? It was just a different person and a slightly different circumstance, but overall, it was true. Elaine riding on a Pegasus as an entrance also was such a mood. I just needed to say that. Like, I know it doesn't fit anywhere else in this discussion, but it does. Oh my god, I also really love the way that dance is portrayed in all Sarah J. Maas books, but specifically this one. Like, God, as a dancer, like, I spent so much of my life dancing, and I know what it feels like to be dancing and almost feel like it is a powerful moment. Like, God, in this way it is portrayed, like when Nesta is dancing with Eris and when she's dancing with Cassium and Asriel, it is portrayed as she has its own separate power. And I love the way that that is talked about, like the way that dance can be powerful, or it can make you feel vulnerable, or it can make you feel just like pure joy. As someone who grew up dancing, who loved it and loved the way that it felt and the way that I felt powerful and happy and like I was in a different world, I felt so connected to the way that Nesta felt in this book when she was dancing like the waltz, or where she was like talking about music in general. Like, I was able to connect with that on a different level. I know that Sarah always has like a different aspect of like art portrayed in her books. Like, Feyre's a painter. I'll say the character in Throne of Glass plays the pianoforte. But like, the fact that dance is such a central like topic in all of her books makes me wonder if Sarah is a dancer, because like the way that it is portrayed, I don't know, I feel like she has to dance. Like, she was a dancer, right? Sarah, can you confirm and deny this? I know you're probably not watching this, but I'm getting drunk and I feel like you should confirm this. Oh my god. Also, I really, really hate the scene where Nesta tells Feyre about her birth complications and like the way that it comes out and Feyre starts crying. Like, I love Nesta and I really hated her in that moment. Like, that was the saddest part of the whole entire book, and I felt so cringy when it was happening that I closed the book and I think I left it for like half a day. And that's why it took me 3 days instead of 2 to finish it, was because after that happened, I genuinely could not keep reading because I felt so broken up and hurt for Feyre. And it was like, I've read 3 books with Feyre. 4 books with Feyre. I've read 4 books in Feyre's point of view, and it was so hard to like watch her be her like that. I don't know. That was the one time where I was like, Nesta, you went too far. You went way too far. Back to like happy things in this book. Directly after that happens, like Nesta has her breakthrough. And it was that moment where she basically hits rock bottom and realizes that like she went too far. And like she hits the lake and she just starts sobbing and she cries like she has never cried before. And I have never, I don't know if it's just something that I don't remember, but I do not remember her ever being described as crying. So just the fact that like she hit her breakthrough and instead of it being like a rage thing, she finally like lets out so many of those emotions she's been holding back and keeping inside of her and just like cries for the first time in I don't even know how long. Like that was probably such a freeing moment. As someone who cries very often, like I was like, okay girl, here it is, like get it all out now. Also, the first time Nesta goes to the cottage with Cassium and calls Cassium her friend was really emotional. Like I feel like their friendship was more pivotal than their romance. And that could just be me, but like just the fact that Nesta didn't really have any friends before Cassium and that was her first true friend and she acknowledges that really broke my heart. Gwyn's winter solstice present to Nesta and Emery where she like writes a book about them. I could not. Like it was such an emotional moment for me. If anyone wrote me in a book, I would just like sob. I don't know how they didn't break down in tears and cry their eyes out, but like that would have been me. I also am really excited to see whether or not like if Elaine and Asriel get like the next book. The presents that Elaine gets Asriel always make me laugh so much. Like first it was the headache medicine and now it's like damn it, I'm getting drunk. So first she gets him like the headache medicine and then she gets him the like earplugs because like he's staying up at the House of Wind with Cassium and Nesta. And they just have such a quiet humor together that I love. Okay, back to Winter Solstice. I also think that the moment between Nesta and Asriel was just so sweet. Like, I don't know if anyone else just like cried in that moment, but where basically like Asriel gives her a book light and it's just like to Nesta it is the kindest, sweetest thing and she like throws her arms around him. It's the first time that we really see them showing physical affection like outside just in like a platonic way. I don't know, I just found it so sweet and kind and like I am so here for their friendship and I really hope that we get to see more friendship moments between them because that was a really special moment for me. And I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I did. Another thing that I hated, overall plotline wise, was I did not give a shit about the human queens. Like, let's be real. Queen Briellen, like, I didn't give a shit about her. And I feel like that was my biggest issue with the book. I thought she was boring. And honestly, I would have loved to seen Koschei be a bigger part of this book. And I think he's going to be a bigger part of the next books. That was my issue with this book because I thought the plot was underwhelming, mainly because I did not care about her. I did not really see her as a real threat and I did not see her as a real enemy, which was probably the biggest reason why I did not like this book as much as I like other ones, mainly because like she was boring. If she would have had more page time, maybe I would have found her more interesting, but she was just always like this character that was like, oh, she's in the background doing lurky things, like, beware, and I was like, you can handle her in like 5 seconds. Like, she's an old woman now. My hot take of the day. That ending where Nesta is basically giving up her powers for Feyre to save them and the baby and basically Rhysand as well. I thought that was super interesting, but I also wonder if the mother is going to play a bigger part in the next few books. And I will talk about it in my crackpot theories for the next book as well, because I feel like there is a way that that is going to be tied into the Weird Sisters theory that we have. But I really hope that in the next few books we see more of the mother and her power, because all we've really seen so far is the cauldron. Like, what other gods do they have besides the mother and the cauldron? Is there more? I don't know. I'm intrigued. So I already said that my first favorite scene was the sleepover, but I think my second favorite scene is Starfall. First of all, she defeats the stairs finally. And that moment in general, like when she gets to the bottom of the stairs and instead of going out into the city to the life that she thought that she wanted to go back to, she heads right back up and goes to Cassium. I really liked that moment. But in general, I really loved the moment of her crying over just finding beauty in the world. Like, we never see Nesta cry. And then she finally cries for the first time, like when she has her breakdown. And that in general is a breakthrough in itself. But then when she cries during Starfall just from pure joy, that is something that I was like, okay, hold on, we need to take a second, because Nesta never cries. Let alone does she cry for something out of pure joy. Like, it was such a sweet moment for me. And then her moment with Amren, where they finally become friends again, which is what I waited the whole entire book for. I was floored. And Starfall in general, like, are my favorite scenes. I don't know exactly if I missed any theories that I had that, like, didn't come true, because I had, let's be real, I had a ton of theories, and I went through our YouTube channel. I didn't go through the podcast again because the podcast was 2 hours and I did not have time. But I went through our YouTube channel and found out the exact theories that I made, but I'll take one last shot because I honestly don't remember if there were any other theories. But you know what? If you guys watched this video and you watched our podcast and our YouTube video with the, with Brooke and Jada as guests, and you're like, you know what, you missed one, I'll take a shot and send you a video of it. But I think we're going to end it with one last shot, because I still have to work tomorrow and I can't be a total mess. You already can tell I'm getting so drunk. I'm so sorry. If you have not watched our other videos with Booked and Boozy, please go watch those. It was very interesting to, like, go back and watch our, like, theories beforehand and then also go back and watch them afterwards and see how off or, like, on point we were. It was a really good time. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe if you have not already. We have now 2 videos coming out every week, which is something that is kind of a big deal since me and Rayanne live very far away from each other. So I really hope that you guys are enjoying the content that we put out. I'm so sorry. I probably should have filmed this before I got drunk. You can also follow us on Instagram at tipsy_book_talks, where we post basically all of our announcements for our YouTube channel, so you can go check us out there. And yeah, cheers!